Hello everyone, this is Priyanka Senapati from SV Nirtar and I am going to present the biomechanics of the patellofemoral joint. Here you can see the anatomy of patella. A patella is the largest sesamoid bone in the body. It is an inverted triangle with its apex directed inferiorly and the base is located superiorly. A vertical ridge is present in the posterior aspect at the middle, dividing the patella into equal medial and lateral facets, which are both convex from side to side and as well as from top to bottom. And a second vertical ridge is present that separates the medial facet from the extreme medial edge of the patella, and this is known as the odd facet. Then moving on to the femoral articular surface of the patellofemoral joint. The femoral sulcus or the patellar surface is located on the anterior aspect of the distal femur. This is the distal femur and here is the patellar surface. And the posterior patella sits on this femoral sulcus. The femoral sulcus has a groove that corresponds to the ridge on the posterior patella and divides the sulcus into medial and lateral facets. So what happens is there is a sulcus which is located on the distal aspect of the femur and there is patella. So the patella posteriorly there is a ridge present and the femur anteriorly there is a sulcus present, a groove. So this ridge and the groove will fit together and the facets present in the patella will be fitting to the patellar surface present on the femur. So they will form the patellofemoral joint. Then what is the function of the patella? The patella functions as an anatomical pulley for the quadricep muscle, adding to its leverage. It reduces the friction between the quadricep tendon and the femoral surface and it acts as a bony shield for the cartilage of the femoral surface. So you can see the quadricep muscle, patella, and this is the movement arm. Movement arm is the line from the axis of the knee joint to the line of action of the quadricep pull. So this movement arm. So this patella will add to this leverage or to this movement arm. Just see where the patella is not present. This movement arm is highly reduced. Unlike in case of where the patella is present. So what happens is what is the importance of this leverage? Why is it required? So it acts to the stability, efficiency of quadricep exactly. So when a patella is present anteriorly, so from the femoral surface to the patella there is a movement arm and this movement arm will increase if the patella is present. So for a particular amount of torque which is equal to force into moment arm. So when a particular amount of torque has to be produced and the moment arm is increased, so with a less amount of force the particular amount of torque can be achieved. So if with a less amount of quadricep force a particular amount of torque can be achieved, then the muscle is said to be efficient. And when is that possible? When the moment arm is large enough, which you can see when the patella is present. So the efficiency of the quadricep in the presence of patella is enhanced. So here's the patellofemoral articular surface and the joint congruence. When the knee is fully extended, the patella lies in the highest position of the femoral sulcus and the joint congruency is minimal, thus patellar instability. When patella is highly above, then it is on the superior aspect of the femur articular surface with patella and it will be highly unstable. And stability is affected by the vertical position of the patella where the length of the patella is equal to the length of the patellar tendon. This is an index, IS index, where the vertical height of the patella and the patellar tendon both will be in the ratio 1:1, which is stable and which is normal. A high riding patella called patella alta, this is patella alta, which increases the risk for patellar instability because it is in the highest position where it is not inside the groove or inside the patellar surface of the femur. It is very high and thus it will be predisposed to instability. And a low riding patella is known as patella baja. And patella alta predisposes the patella for lateral subluxation, and thus the tibiofemoral joint must be flexed more to engage the patella in the intercondylar groove, causing a larger knee range of motion where the patella is relatively unstable. So you can say when the patella alta, where the patella is highly riding up, so there is a chance that it will be subluxated, or there will be a chance for lateral tracking of the patella. And as the patella is in highest position of the femur, when the patella is in normal position, it will go along with the tibial tuberosity, along with the patellar tendon when the knee flexes. But now the patella was here, but now it is here, high riding. So it has to cover a long distance for the knee flexion range. So the knee flexion range will be high, and because of the larger knee range of motion, the patella will be more prone for instability, which occurs in case of patella alta. Then the contact of patella with motion. The contact area between the patella and the femur changes constantly with motion. You can see how is it changing? Constantly it changes with motion. Extended knee, only inferior pole in contact with the patella. Only the inferior pole of the patella will be in contact with the superior aspect in an extended knee. And as knee flexion progresses, patella slides down, increasing the surface area contact. So when the knee flexion will go on increasing, the patella will move down, increasing the area of contact, where it was just a little bit contact, and as it goes down, the contact area will go on increasing. You can see very well over here. 10 to 20 degree knee flexion, inferior margin of the medial and lateral facets shifted superiorly as flexion proceeds, and beyond 90 degree it again migrates inferiorly and odd facets come in contact, and at maximum flexion the lateral and the odd facets are in contact, leaving the medial facet. So as the knee flexion goes on increasing, the patella will move downwards towards the intercondylar groove, where the medial and the lateral facets will be in contact with the patellar surface on the femur, and as it goes down, the odd facet and the lateral facet will be in contact as it gets filled into the intercondylar groove, but the medial facet will lose its contact beyond 90 degree. Here you can see in the second diagram, 10 degree, the superior aspect of the femur, the patella was. Then as it moves down to 25, then to 45, 60, then beyond at 90 degree also, the contact area is going on increasing of the medial and lateral facet, but as it goes to 115, the odd facet will come in contact now, more knee flexion, and then much more knee flexion, the odd facet and the lateral facet will be in contact, leaving the medial facet. What is the motions of patella? Patellar flexion extension. This motion occurs in the sagittal plane. When the femur is fixed and the knee is flexing, the patella attached to the TT is pulled down, gliding inferiorly and rotating on the femoral condyle with distal apex moving posteriorly into the intercondylar groove called patellar flexion. You can see here the knee flexed, it's going on 90 degree flexion, then it goes to 135 degree knee flexion. And knee extension brings back the patella into place in the femoral sulcus, with the apex pointing inferiorly at the end of the normal range of motion, and the superior glide and rotating up is called patellar extension. So when there is knee flexion and extension, the patella will go down from the femoral sulcus more down through the patellar tendon attached to the TT. It will go down, go on sliding and rotating downwards with knee flexion, and it will come up to the patellar sulcus superior portion by gliding and rotating upward, completing the knee flexion and extension range. Then there occur medial and lateral patellar tilt. The lateral patellar tilt occur when the lateral edge of the patella approximate the lateral condyle of the femur. Lateral tilt. And the medial tilt occurs when the medial edge of the patella approximate the medial condyle of the femur. Lateral edge, lateral condyle, medial edge, medial condyle. This is the medial and lateral patellar tilt, which occurs in this axis, longitudinal axis. You can see here. Then the rotations. Rotations occurs in the anterior posterior axis. So rotations occur about an anterior posterior axis with the medial rotation where the apex points towards the medial femoral condyle and base close to the lateral. So apex, if this is the apex, to the medial and base to the lateral condyle. So during flexion extension, patella moves superiorly and inferiorly and lies in line with TT, and when there occurs lateral rotation of the tibia, patella also rotates laterally as in extension and medially as in flexion. So during flexion extension, patella moves superiorly and inferiorly and lies in line with the tibial tuberosity, and when there occurs lateral rotation of the tibia, patella also rotates laterally as in extension and medially as in flexion. So when there occurs extension, we know the screw home mechanism. Where there occurs extension, the patella will rotate laterally. The tibia will rotate laterally. So when the tibia rotates laterally, the tibial tuberosity rotates laterally, the patellar tendon rotates laterally, and the patella too rotates laterally in extension. Similarly, during unlocking, where the tibia has to move medially and unlock, the patella also has to move medially in line. The apex of the patella has to rotate medially in line with the TT and thus cause flexion. The patella is mostly located slight laterally in the femoral sulcus, and it shifts medially when pushed by the lateral femoral condyle while beginning of the flexion. Here you can see the shift. So shift occurs in the frontal plane and rotations in the AP axis, and these are the tilt. So when there occurs extension, we know that the lateral femoral condyle is projected more anteriorly. So it will give a push on the patella. So the patella will go to medially during extension. And as the flexion occurs, it will go on moving bit laterally and get fixed in the intercondylar groove. So it's written patella is mostly located slightly lateral in the femoral sulcus, and it shifts medially when pushed by the lateral femoral condyle while beginning of the flexion. Now is the patellofemoral joint stress in sagittal plane. So the joint stress can be influenced either by change of force or change in the contact area, because stress is force per unit area. So as the knee flexes and extends, the patella is pulled up by the quadricep and pulled down by the patellar tendon. This creates a resultant force that is directed posteriorly and varies with the amount of knee flexion. This force gradually goes on increasing when the knee goes into flexion and extension, where the angle of pull between the quadricep and the patellar tendon goes on decreasing. thus creating more patellofemoral compressive force in the sagittal plane. You can see here, this is the sagittal plane, this is the patella, and this is the quadriceps force FQ, this is the patellar force FP. They give a resultant by the parallelogram law. This is directed posteriorly in the sagittal plane, causing compression of the patella into the distal femur. And as there occurs more and more flexion, the angle between this quadricep and the patellar tendon, the angle in which this force is acting resultant, this angle goes on decreasing. So the force that is produced goes on increasing. Thus the compressive force goes on increasing. So more and more knee flexion, more and more patellofemoral compressive force posteriorly, which causes degeneration more quickly. And so in any degenerative diseases and in any patellofemoral conditions, knee flexion beyond 30 to 40 degree is not allowed because of the increased stress in the sagittal plane. With a larger movement arm, less quadricep force will be required to produce the same amount of torque, while as flexion increases, the movement arm decreases and more force production by quadricep, causing increased patellofemoral stress. So as this decreases, the angle decreases, the movement arm goes on decreasing. So the force which is produced by the quadricep will be more to produce a particular amount of torque. And because the quadricep force will be more, the joint stress or the compressive force will also be more, causing more degeneration and other pain, patellofemoral pain anteriorly more. Then patellofemoral joint stability in frontal plane. In the extended knee, instability arises as the patella sits on the shallow groove and the bony stability and the patellofemoral compressive force is reduced. The resultant pull on the patella laterally in the frontal plane during extension suggests the instability and the role of mediolateral structures in maintaining stability. So the patella, the quadricep force up, the patellar force down, and in the frontal plane there is a laterally directed force on the patella due to the resultant in the frontal plane. So this will be more causing the patella to be subluxated laterally and unstable position. So along with the bones, some other capsulo-ligamental structures, muscles, extra structures, passive and dynamic, has to take part in maintaining the stability. So when the knee is hyperextended, the patellar tendon and the quadricep tendon will try to distract the patella from the sulcus, thus causing it to be unstable. And thus the transverse stabilizers like the vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, which is attached to the retinaculum close to the patella, and the patellofemoral ligaments also, they also stabilize it. So both the dynamic and the static stabilizer are very useful and very important to maintain this stability. So the thickest portion of the medial retinaculum, medial patellofemoral ligament, prevents the translation along the lateral lip of the lateral femoral condyle and influence the medial and lateral tracking of the patella. So here's the asymmetry in patellofemoral stabilization. What's the Q angle? It is the angle formed between a line from the ASIS to the midpoint of patella and a line from the midpoint of patella to the tibial tuberosity below. So it is measured in extension when the quadricep is relaxed and its normal angle is 10 to 15 degree. This is the angle upward. From the cross section, this is the angle which is normally 10 to 15 degree. And more will be the angle as this is the frontal plane and the resultant by the parallelogram is directed on the patella laterally. So if this angle goes on increasing, there will be more lateral patellar tracking. So the Q angle increases with wider pelvis, increased femoral anteversion, lateral tibial torsion, and a relative knee valgus. So in any case where the tibial tuberosity is more lateral, or the femoral proximal surface is more lateral, then the angle will go on increasing, more medial, and the lateral will tibia will be more lateral, then the angle will go on increasing. So when the angle goes on increasing, the patella will be more prone for tracking and subluxation. So thus the Q angle increment causes the patellar joint to be unstable and patella is prone to subluxation. What are the causes for the increased Q angle? Tight IT band. When IT band is tight, it is located laterally from the above to the Gerdy's tubercle on the lateral tibial condyle. So when it will contract, it will cause the tibia to be laterally rotated. So the tibial tuberosity will also be laterally rotated. So the Q angle will go on increasing. Similarly, in case of genu valgum, where the tibia will be lateral moving, tibia will be abducted, and the femoral anteversion, femur will be more anteriorly directed from the in the transverse plane. Then imbalance between the vastus medialis and vastus lateralis. When these muscular forces are imbalanced, there will be a larger Q angle because of the quadricep pull. Because one force for resulting the Q angle is the quadricep. So when there is a imbalance between VM and VL, then the QP, which is directed upward and laterally, will be imbalanced. So Q angle will also be varied. Lateral tibial torsion similar. Then the laxity of the medial retinaculum. When the medial retinaculum is not holding the patella tightly, then the patella has been prone to be dislocated laterally, so subluxated or moved laterally shift. So the from the patella to the tibial tuberosity, so from the patella to the ASIs, the angle will go on increasing because of the shift of the patella. So in the tightness of the lateral retinaculum, similarly, when the medial retinaculum is laxity, then the tightness of the lateral retinaculum, patella will be dislocated more and the Q angle will be increased. And prolonged pronation of the foot. It is always the joints, when one joint is affected, other also are prone to be affected. So when the knee is affected, the hip joint, the foot and the ankle joint, all will be simultaneously changed. And the simultaneous change of other joints also will change the effect, have an effect on the knee joint. Here the weight bearing versus non weight bearing exercises. See, in the first diagram where there is an open kinetic chain, the momentum is not there, almost absent in 90°. And when there is prone for extension, this momentum will go on a bit increasing. And when there is full extension, the momentum is so much increased. So the quadricep has to produce a lot of amount of force to balance this increased momentum which is produced by the gravity. Because of the gravity, the momentum which has increased on knee extension, so the quadricep has to produce more amount of force at this position to balance the torque, counteracting torque. And this occurs in open kinetic chain. But in contrast of the closed kinetic chain, as in squatting, normally you are standing, then as you go to squat, initial squat, you can see the body weight acting posteriorly and the momentum highly decreased. Go on, which is increasing compared to the first, and we go on flexing, go on moving down mid squat, then the momentum is going on a bit more increasing, and then when you go to the inner squat, the momentum will be more and more increased and the body weight is acting more posteriorly as you proceed from left to right, and then the torque that is acting is clockwise, and so this, to counterbalance this torque, the quadricep has to produce an extensor torque or a counteracting torque, and this has to be increased. So as there is more and more knee flexion in a closed chain, the quadricep activity is increased, while in case of open chain, as there is more and more knee extension, the quadricep activity is more increased. Then what are the causes of the knee pain? Because of all these changing biomechanics, we have studied the patellar articular surface, the femoral articular surface, the patellofemoral joint, the stresses in the sagittal plane, in the frontal plane, then the tracking of the patella, then the asymmetry due to the Q angle, the effect on the patella. If these all changes, what happens is this: the causes of the knee pain, like you can have the osteoarthritis, ligamentous injury, meniscal tear, bursitis, synovial plica syndrome, fat path syndrome, patellar tendinitis, hamstring strain, IT band friction syndrome, patellofemoral pain syndrome, etc. These are all the diseases which can occur, some due to tibiofemoral joint and some due to patellofemoral joint. But these will be, and many more other conditions too, which causes the knee pain due to the abnormality in the biomechanics of the knee joint. Thank you so much.